One day, I discovered that my own sister had kicked me out of the apartment I own. But it all started with a single phone call from my mom and an innocent-sounding request to help family. My name is Emily. I'm 30 years old. It was a day off that I was enjoying. I was sitting on the couch flipping through a magazine when the phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hi, Emily. How are you?" There was that sweet, artificially caring tone in Mom's voice that she always used whenever she wanted something. "I'm fine, just relaxing. What's up?" I asked, already bracing myself. "I need to ask you for a small favor," she said, confirming my suspicions. "Your sister just moved out of her apartment. Her lease ended, and she's going through some temporary financial difficulties." I sighed heavily. Rachel was 26, 4 years younger than me, and she'd never really gotten her life together. She hopped from job to job, relationship to relationship, always with some excuse why things fell apart. "Mom, where is this going?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Well, you have that empty apartment from your divorce with Alex," she said in a higher voice. "Rachel needs somewhere to stay until she gets back on her feet. I thought maybe she could stay there for a little while, just until she sorts things out." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. That apartment was my financial safety net. After my divorce 3 years ago, I got that apartment as part of the settlement. 2 years later, I bought myself a nicer place in a better neighborhood, taking on a hefty mortgage. My plan was to rent out the old apartment to help cover the mortgage payments. "Mom, I was planning to rent that place out," I reminded her. "I need the rental income to help pay my mortgage." "I know, dear, but this is family. Rachel is in a tough spot right now. You're doing well in your marketing job, and she's struggling. It would just be temporary." I knew what temporary meant in Rachel's vocabulary. I also knew that if I said no, Mom would bring this up at every family gathering for the next decade, hinting that I'd abandoned my sister in her time of need. "Fine," I said after a pause. "She can stay there temporarily, but I mean temporarily." "Thank you so much, dear. Rachel will be so grateful. I'll tell her right away." Before I could set any conditions, she hung up. I threw the phone onto the couch cushion next to me and groaned loudly. So much for my rental income. A week later, I met Rachel at the old apartment. She had a few belongings with her. She looked exactly as I expected. Casual, relaxed, like she didn't have a care in the world despite being essentially homeless and unemployed. "Hey sis, thanks for this. You're a lifesaver," she said, giving me a quick hug. She smelled like she'd just smoked a cigarette. "Listen, as I already told Mom, this is temporary," I said, unlocking the door and stepping inside. The place was clean and empty, with only the basic furniture I'd left behind. "I understand," Rachel said, looking around. "I won't be long. As soon as I find a job, I'll move out. I already have a couple of leads." I'd heard that before. "Just know, there are rules," I added. She looked at me with a hint of irritation but quickly masked it. "Go ahead, lay them on me." "First, no one else can move in without my permission. Second, clean up after yourself. The apartment needs to stay in good condition. Third, no loud parties. The neighbors already know me, and I don't want complaints. Fourth, no pets without asking me first." Rachel raised her hands. "Fair enough. I promise I'll be the perfect tenant. You won't even notice I'm here." For the first few weeks, I'd drop by unannounced after work. To my surprise, Rachel seemed to be keeping her promises. The apartment was reasonably clean, no strange people lived there, and a few times she even cooked dinner for me when I came over. "See, I told you I've grown up," she said one evening as we ate pasta she'd prepared. "I'm impressed," I admitted. Maybe Mom was right for once. At family dinners at my parents', I was praised. "It's so good to see you two getting along," Mom said, serving meatloaf. "Family should always help family. I'm proud of you, Emily." Dad nodded in agreement. "Rachel says you've been really supportive." I felt a warm glow of approval I hadn't felt from them in years. Maybe this wasn't such a bad situation after all. After about 2 months, I eased up on my surveillance. Work got busier, I started dating someone new. I'd call Rachel occasionally to check in, but I stopped dropping by unannounced. "Everything good over there?" I'd ask. "Yep, all good. Place is clean, bills are paid. No wild parties," she'd always respond cheerfully. I should have known it was too good to be true. One Tuesday evening, I suddenly remembered I'd left some important documents in the filing cabinet in the spare bedroom of the apartment. I needed them for a meeting the next day, so I drove over without calling first. As I approached, I heard loud music blasting from inside. I rang the doorbell but got no answer. After trying a couple more times, I used my key to let myself in. The sight that greeted me stopped me in my tracks. A young man I'd never seen before was lying on the living room couch with a cigarette between his lips. He was wearing only boxers. He was so engrossed in the loud music that he didn't notice me right away. When he finally saw me, he jumped in surprise. Then his expression turned angry. "Who the hell are you? And why are you breaking into our apartment?" he yelled over the music. "Our apartment?" I was stunned for a moment. "I'm talking to you! You can't just walk into someone's home with a key like that," he said, turning the music down with a remote as he glared at me. At that moment, Rachel came rushing out of the bedroom. Seeing me, she visibly flinched. "Emily, I wasn't expecting you." "Not surprising," I said. "Who is this?" The guy crossed his arms. "I should be asking who you are and why you're trespassing." "I'm Emily, the owner of this apartment," I said, turning to Rachel. "Care to explain?" "This is Stefan, my boyfriend," Rachel said, stepping between us. "He needed a place to stay." "And you moved him in without my permission?" I finished for her. The first rule was no moving anyone in without my consent. Stefan rolled his eyes. "Oh my God, seriously? We're adults. Rachel doesn't need your permission for who stays in her apartment." "It's not her apartment," I said firmly. "It's mine." "Emily, please," Rachel pleaded with a puppy dog look she'd always used since we were kids. "We're serious. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you'd freak out." I looked between them, Rachel with pleading eyes, Stefan with open hostility. "How long has he lived here?" I asked. "About a month," she admitted. A whole month, and she hadn't bothered mentioning it. "Rachel, can we talk privately?" "Anything you want to say, you can say in front of me," Stefan interrupted. I looked at her. "I'd like to speak with my sister alone, in my apartment." Rachel gently asked him to leave. He huffed, but went off, slamming the bedroom door. "Charming," I muttered once he was gone. "He's just protecting me," Rachel said. "And you kind of freaked him out by just walking in with your key." "Rachel, what nonsense. We had an agreement." "I know," she sighed. "But we've been together for 3 months. He got kicked out and it just made sense." I felt a headache coming on. Part of me wanted to kick them both out, but I knew what would happen. My parents would side with Rachel, and I'd be the cold-hearted sister who threw her sibling and her boyfriend onto the street. "Fine," I said. "He can stay. But the other rules still apply. Keep the place clean. No parties, no pets without asking first." Rachel smiled widely and hugged me. "You're the best! I promise we'll follow all the rules. You won't regret this." "I already do," I muttered, but she didn't hear. As I gathered my documents and was about to leave, Stefan came out of the bedroom. "So, I'm allowed to stay? How generous of you." He smirked. "Stefan, be polite," Rachel said softly. "I'm serious. Thanks, Emily," he said, though his tone made it clear he was far from grateful. "But next time, maybe knock before using your key. It's kinda invasive." I opened my mouth to remind him whose name was on the deed, but decided it wasn't worth it. "Fine." When I reached for the door handle, Stefan stepped in front of me and opened it. "Bye," he said with a fake smile, and practically shoved me out the door. I stood stunned in the hallway. Did that just happen? Did my sister's boyfriend just kick me out of my own apartment? At dinner with my parents, still fuming over the encounter, I told them what happened. "I met Rachel's boyfriend," I said. "Isn't he wonderful?" Mom beamed. "Rachel brought him over last week. Such a sweet guy." I nearly choked on my potatoes. "Sweet? He was incredibly rude to me." I told them about finding Stefan in the apartment and how he behaved. "Oh, you probably just caught him off guard." Mom waved the comment away. "And you barged in without warning. Anyone would be startled." "It's my apartment," I said like a broken record. "They broke the rules we agreed on." "Oh, Emily," Mom sighed. "You have to understand. Rachel is building a serious relationship. They want to create a home together." "In my apartment," I emphasized. "Can't you be happy for your sister?" Dad asked. "After your divorce, you should understand how important that is." That stung. They knew my ex-husband had cheated on me, yet somehow they were using my failed marriage to guilt me about Rachel. "This isn't about my divorce," I said. "It's about Rachel not respecting our agreement. Family is more important than rules," Mom said firmly. "You have 2 apartments, Rachel has none. You can afford to be generous." I gave up trying to make them understand and changed the subject. The next week, utility bills arrived for Rachel's apartment. My jaw dropped when I saw amounts nearly double what they should be. I called Rachel immediately. "Have you seen the utility bills? They're twice as high as usual. What's going on?" "Well," she hesitated. "Stefan likes to take really long baths. Like really long. And he says he needs the lights on to see." I closed my eyes and counted to 10 again. "Rachel, I'm paying those bills." "I know. I'm sorry. I'll talk to him about it." "Please do. I can't afford this kind of increase." "I promise, sis. I'll handle it." I wanted to believe her, but a part of me knew better. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Patel, the elderly woman living across the hall. "Ms. Emily, sorry to bother you," she said softly, "but there have been very loud parties in your apartment. Many nights, very late, too much noise, too many people." I apologized profusely, promising to address the issue, though anger bubbled inside me. First the unauthorized roommate, then the bills, now the parties. Rachel had broken every rule. The next day after work, I drove to the apartment. I knocked, rang the bell, but no one answered. I tried my key. It wouldn't turn. They'd changed the locks. I was beyond furious. I went to my car to wait. 2 hours later, Rachel and Stefan appeared, walking toward the building entrance. I followed them inside and up the elevator. At the apartment door, I called out, "Rachel!" She turned, face falling. Stefan looked annoyed. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "We need to talk about why my key doesn't work anymore," I said. Rachel at least looked embarrassed. "Emily, I can explain." "Let's talk inside," I insisted, pushing past Stefan, who gave me a dirty look but stepped aside. Inside, the apartment was messier than before. Empty beer bottles lined the kitchen counter, and the living room furniture had been rearranged. "Why did you change the locks?" I demanded. Before Rachel could answer, Stefan jumped in. "I didn't like the idea of you being able to just walk in whenever you wanted. It's creepy." I turned to Rachel. "Did you agree to this?" She looked at the floor, then nodded slightly. "You know what? I've had enough," I said. "Mrs. Patel called me yesterday. She says you've been having loud parties." "That old bat needs to mind her own business," muttered Stefan. "Neighbors are my business," I said. "And so are these utility bills, which have doubled since you moved in. Emily, can we talk about this later, when everyone's calmer?" "No, we're talking now. You've broken every single rule we agreed on. You moved someone in without asking. You're not keeping the place clean. You're having parties. And now you've changed the locks to my property without my permission." Stefan rolled his eyes and pulled a folded piece of paper from a drawer. "Here." I didn't take it. "It's a list of rules," he said, shoving it into my hands. "If you want to visit your apartment, these are the conditions." I unfolded the paper, not believing what I was hearing. The first rule said I needed to give at least 3 days' notice before visiting. The second said I couldn't come after 7 p.m. or before 10 a.m. The third forbade discussing bills. Rule 4 demanded I be quiet during visits and not stir up drama. Rule 5 required me to buy them new furniture because the current stuff was old and ugly. The list went on with increasingly ridiculous demands. I looked up to see Stefan smirking and Rachel looking uncomfortable. Something inside me snapped. A strange calm washed over me. "You have 1 week to move out." Their smug expressions vanished. "What?" Stefan sputtered. "You can't kick us out," Stefan shouted. "We have rights." "You're not on the lease. There is no lease. This is my property, and I'm telling you that you have 1 week to find somewhere else to live." Stefan's face contorted with rage. He grabbed a vase from the bookshelf, a blue glass one I'd bought in Venice during my honeymoon, and threw it to the floor. It shattered into dozens of pieces. I flinched, but kept my composure. "That vase cost $200. You will reimburse me." "Go to hell," he spat. He reached for another decorative item, a ceramic bowl. "Touch anything else, and I'm calling the police," I warned him. "Destruction of property is a crime." He froze, hands still outstretched. 1 week, I repeated, then turned and walked out. As I closed the door behind me, I heard Stefan yelling obscenities and Rachel trying to calm him down. I walked to my car with my head held high, but once inside, my hands started shaking. I'd never stood up to Rachel like that before. I had just pulled into my driveway when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Great. Rachel had already called her. "Hello?" I answered, bracing myself. "Emily, what is wrong with you?" she started immediately. "Rachel just called us in tears. How could you kick your sister and her boyfriend out onto the street?" "Mom, they changed the locks to my apartment without asking me. I'm sure they had their reasons." she dismissed. "You're always barging in without warning." Dad's voice came on the line. "Your mother and I are very disappointed in you, Emily. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for us?" "Dad," I interrupted, "I bought my own place. I'm paying my own mortgage. I'm letting Rachel stay in my property rent-free, and she's taking advantage of me." "That guy seems nice," Mom said. "Rachel says you've been hostile toward him from the start." I laughed in disbelief. "Stefan threw a vase at me today. He handed me a list of rules I have to follow to enter my own property." "You're exaggerating," Mom said. "Ever since Alex left you, you've been bitter." "We understand, sweetie, but don't take it out on your sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I ended the call and turned off my phone. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at nothing, letting the anger and hurt wash over me. The next day, I called a lawyer friend to confirm I had the right to evict Rachel and Stefan. She confirmed that since they weren't on any lease and the property was in my name, I could legally require them to leave. I also arranged for a locksmith to meet me at the apartment the following week. The days passed slowly. Rachel called several times, but I let it go to voicemail. Her messages oscillated between angry, "You're being totally unreasonable," and pleading, "Please, Emily, we have nowhere else to go." I didn't respond to any of them. Mom and Dad called too. I ignored their calls as well. Finally, the week was up. I took the day off work and drove to the apartment. The locksmith was scheduled to arrive an hour after me. I wasn't sure what to expect. Would they still be there? I knocked on the door, and to my surprise, Rachel answered almost immediately. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she looked tired. "We're almost done packing," she said quietly. I nodded and stepped inside. The apartment was a mess, boxes and bags everywhere. Stefan was in the bedroom shoving clothes into a suitcase. "Where will you go?" I asked despite myself. "Mom and Dad said we can stay with them until we figure something out," Rachel replied, not meeting my eyes. I felt a tiny pang of guilt that I quickly suppressed. This was the consequence of their actions, not mine. We didn't speak much as they finished packing. Stefan refused to look at me, moving around as if I were invisible. When they were finally ready to leave, he tossed the keys onto the floor at my feet without a word. "Stefan," Rachel said weakly, but he was already out the door. Rachel lingered for a moment. "I'm sorry about the vase," she said, "and the locks. It was Stefan's idea, but I went along with it." "You always go along with things, Rachel. That's your problem," I said. She nodded sadly, then picked up the last of her bags and left. After Rachel and Stefan left, I surveyed the damage to my apartment. The place was a disaster. There were stains on the carpet, scuff marks on the walls, and the bathroom had a layer of grime that made me gag. The kitchen wasn't much better. The sink was full of dirty dishes, and something unidentifiable was growing in the refrigerator. The locksmith arrived and changed all the locks. I paid extra to have a deadbolt installed for additional security. As he worked, I started cleaning, filling garbage bag after garbage bag with trash they'd left behind. It took me 3 full days to get the apartment back into decent shape. I had to hire professional cleaners for the bathroom and kitchen, and I ended up replacing the carpet in the living room. All told, it cost me over $1,000 to fix everything. Once the apartment was clean, I listed it for rent. I took professional photos, wrote a detailed description, and set a fair price that would cover my mortgage with a little extra for maintenance. Within a week, I had multiple applications. I vetted each potential tenant carefully, checking references and running credit checks. Finally, I settled on a young doctor starting her residency at the local hospital. She had excellent credit, steady income, and no pets. We signed a proper lease agreement with all the details spelled out clearly. The day she moved in, I handed her the keys with a sense of accomplishment. This was how it was supposed to go, a business transaction between responsible adults. As I drove home, I felt lighter. The rental income would help significantly with my mortgage payments, just as I'd planned before Rachel derailed everything. For the next few weeks, I enjoyed my peaceful life. I focused on work, started taking a yoga class, and went on a couple of dates. It was nice to have my own space and boundaries again. My parents eventually stopped calling, though they still sent occasional texts asking me to stop being stubborn and make amends with my sister. I deleted these without responding. Then, about a month after Rachel and Stefan moved out, I received a message from my mother that made me pause. "Emily, I know you're still upset, but I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me." Something about her tone seemed different. I hesitated, but decided to call her back. "Mom, what's going on?" There was a heavy sigh on the other end. "Emily, I owe you an apology. Stefan is not who we thought he was. He's taken over the guest room like it's his personal suite. He leaves his things everywhere, uses all the hot water, and gets angry if we ask him to clean up. Sound familiar?" I said dryly, "Yes, it does." "She set up rules for us in our own home," Mom said, her voice breaking a little. "She told your father he couldn't watch TV after 9 p.m. because the noise bothers her. And she invited friends over for dinner without asking me first." I couldn't help but feel a twist of satisfaction. "That must be hard for you. I see now what you were dealing with," Mom admitted. "Can you talk to Rachel? Maybe convince her and Stefan to find their own place. Your father and I are at our wits' end." I laughed in disbelief. "Are you serious right now? You want me to solve your problem after you took their side against me?" "Ruby, please. We made a mistake. We're your parents and I'm your daughter," she replied. "But that didn't stop you from accusing me of being jealous and bitter. It didn't stop you from dismissing everything I said about how they treated me and my property." "We were wrong," Mom said quietly. "I'm sorry." The apology should have felt good, but it was too little, too late. "Mom, you and Dad created this situation. You enabled Rachel's behavior her entire life. You taught her rules don't apply to her, and someone else will always clean up her messes. What are we supposed to do with them?" Mom asked, sounding genuinely lost. "That's your problem to solve, not mine. Just like my apartment was my problem, remember?" There was a long silence on the other end. "Will you at least talk to us again? Come to dinner on Saturday?" I considered it. Part of me wanted to hold on to my anger, to make them suffer like they made me suffer. But another part recognized this might be a chance for real change in our family dynamics. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "But I'm not fixing this for you." "I understand. We love you, Emily." After we hung up, I sat on my couch processing the conversation. There was a certain poetic justice in my parents getting a taste of what I'd experienced. Maybe now they'd understand why I took the stand I did. Over the next few days, I thought about whether to go to Saturday dinner. In the end, I decided to go, not to fix their problems, but to establish new boundaries for our relationship going forward. As for Rachel and Stefan, I felt no obligation to help them. My sister had made her choices, and now she could live with the consequences. If this experience finally forced her to grow up and take responsibility for her life, maybe something good would come of it. Meanwhile, my tenant paid her rent on time each month. The money went straight toward my mortgage, just as I'd planned. I was moving forward with my life on my own terms, no longer apologizing for protecting what was mine. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.